smart.
I am taking a course with our seminarians on something called Opening to God. And we started that course by trying to define what prayer is. Okay? And once we started that, it was very easy to go back to our catechism definition of prayer as the lifting up of our minds and hearts to God. But then we realized also that that definition has something that is not complete in that, because it gives us the impression that we have to do the lifting of the mind and heart of God to God, meaning that the effort has to come to us. And according to the author of this book, then he said, prayer, instead of being the lifting up of our minds and hearts to God, is actually the opening of our hearts to God. Not lifting of the mind and heart to God, but just simply open your heart for God to come in. And we made reference to Revelation chapter 3 verse 20. Most of my reflections have used this passage. I stand at the door and I knock. If you hear me and you open the door, I will come in and dine with you and you with me. So, in the end, 95% of the work that is done by Jesus. We have to just do the 5% of opening the door for him to come in. Okay? Just open the door. That is all we need to do. Open the door and the Lord will come in and take charge. He says, once you open the door, you leave the rest to me. And this is what it means, Jesus talking today, the gospel, the parable of the mustard seed. That little that we have to do, the 5% that we have to do, it is the smallest, but it can yield abundant fruits. Why? Because we are not the ones doing it, but God takes charge after we have opened the door. So we do the little, the 5%, open the door, and He will come in and take charge of the rest. I will come in and dine with you, and you with me. This is what the parable means today. It talks about the parable of the mustard seed, but it's parable also of the leavened bread, of the yeast. The yeast is a small substance you put in flour, and then it makes the flour to be totally transformed. Just that little quantity of yeast. And this is what Jesus calls us to. I was listening to one priest yesterday who had just come to Ireland, and was talking about something I found that very important. He said, are you ready to give God permission? Okay? Give God permission to come into your life and transform it. That is the little yeast. That is the mustard seed. To give God the permission. Just say, yes, God, I surrender everything to you, and then let Him take full charge. There's a little problem with that, because we always have an impression, we feel that we know it. We feel that we can control it. I have this situation that I'm going through, I know about it, I just need some time and I'll get over it. I want to do it my way, I want to still be in control. That is the problem that we have. It's a very difficult thing at times. It is a very small thing, but also difficult because we want to control. I want to control my life. I don't just want God to take charge of everything. I want to do it myself. I know what I'm going through and I can handle it. I just need some time. But in the end we realize that we can't. We have to open the door for Him to come in. We have to cry out to Him. We have to surrender to Him, who can do everything. And how do we do that? It is faith. Faith. Faith is to say, I can't control it, but I believe. I hand over everything to God. I surrender everything to God. And even though I don't know how it's going to happen, but I believe He is in charge. Therefore, I don't need to worry. That is faith. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 17, verse 20, He says, if your faith, and then He compares it with a mustard seed again. if your faith is as little as a mustard seed, then you can say to this mountain, be moved from here and be planted in the sea or wherever, and it will be done. And it says, then nothing will be impossible to you. Why is he saying that? Why does Matthew say that? The faith becomes that path which opens the door for the Lord to come in. And nothing will be impossible for us not because of us, but because nothing is impossible to God. Not because of us. Not because nothing will be impossible when we have faith. No, once we have faith, it means we are ready to open the door for He who can make impossible things possible. And that is why Matthew's Gospel, chapter 17, verse 20 says that nothing will be impossible for he who has faith. Because we simply open the door, and He who makes impossible things possible comes in and takes charge of our situation, and impossible things become possible. So, my dear friends, is a call for us to renew again our faith. It's a gift that God has given us, but we must be able to put this into practice. And to do that 5% that we have been charged to do, it looks as if it's a little thing, but because of the control that we want to have over everything in our lives, that is why it becomes difficult. I'm so afraid to just risk it to God. I still want to be in control. I would consider praying for my situation, but if it cannot work, then I will go to the quack doctors. That's why, because we want to get control of everything. And Jesus says, if only we can surrender to Him, if only we can entrust Him with the situation. And how do we do that? Simply open the door. Simply say, Jesus, welcome into my life. Welcome into my situation. I want to surrender this to you. It is difficult. I don't know how I'm going to get over it. But I know once you are here, impossible things become possible. Let us therefore continue to ask for that gift of faith, to totally surrender to God all our struggles and whatever thing we go through. And He says, if we have just the few little piece of bread, the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish, it is little, but it's going to feed abundance of people. That is faith. We therefore continue to ask God, therefore, for an increase in faith in our lives as we continue to journey through life.
Kiss us, mother, kiss your children. Bring God's blessings from above. With your mantle blue enfold us in your gentle holy love. See the darkness dissipating, hear the trumpet echoing, Satan's rage